Well, I'd say all these groups fit under the umbrella of what I would call, far-right extremism. We're talking about everything here from anti-government militias like the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters to white supremacy extremists, neo-Nazis, and even, violent conspiracy theorists and adherents to the movement QAnon.
So has there been a rapid rise in more recent years or growth of this, what we're seeing, this American insurgency? And how much of it actually stems from former President Donald Trump or the U.S. government in general?
Yeah, well, we've certainly seen an uptick over the past several years in domestic terrorism and terrorism that is both racially and ethnically motivated. I wrote an op-ed in the LA Times in late November where I attribute quite a bit of the violence to President Trump's rhetoric. He's been stirring the pot for years. He's refused to condemn white supremacy, which is pretty easy to do. And he's basically dog whistled to a lot of these groups with comments after Charlottesville to stand back and stand by to the Proud Boys, almost a kind of wink, wink, nod, nod that this behavior will be tolerated, it's okay. And I think a lot of that, led directly to what we saw on January 6th with the siege of the Capitol.
Well, I got to ask you about some recent incidents in Portland, Oregon. Does Antifa fall into this same category?
By same category, do you mean domestic terrorism? Because I tend to separate breaking windows from actually killing police officers. Antifa is a convenient talking point for the far right, and there's almost a knee-jerk reaction anytime you bring up far-right extremism. People say, well, what about Antifa? Well, when Antifa starts killing people, I'll consider them on the same level as I do white supremacy extremists and neo-Nazis. But until then, I look at this as a kind of broad-based movement. A lot of agitators, vandals, etc., not quite at that level. We haven't seen nearly the same level of violence from the far left as we have from the far right in recent years, although that could change.
So how do you stop domestic terrorists, and can you even put them in the same category as foreign actors? In other words, you can't really, or can you use the military to address or fight them?
Well, that's one of the things that the Biden administration is going to be reckoning with now. We lack the equivalent of a designation for foreign terrorist organizations as we would for groups operating on U.S. soil. There are different rights afforded under the Constitution, First Amendment, Second Amendment, that U.S. citizens enjoy that foreigners would not. So there's a lot of questions that the Biden administration is going to have to deal with. One is, do we pass new laws to deal with this threat and to afford law enforcement with more tools, more resources to combat and counter this threat? Or do we really just need to start enforcing the laws we already have on the books? There's a lot of discussions going on at very high levels right now. What I am relieved to see, I can say, is that the Biden administration clearly has a sense of urgency in wanting to deal with this threat and has put some of the really top thinkers in the U.S. government on this issue.